Anyway, let's move into our tips for this week, eh? So, of course, we are up to round 7. Finally, the buys are over from the opening round, of course. Thursday or Wednesday night with the Anzac Eve game, the traditional game between Richmond and Melbourne. I've actually gone Melbourne. Then the traditional Anzac Day clash, I've gone Collingwood over the Bombers. Thursday night, I've gone the Lions over the Giants at Manuka Oval. On Friday night, I've gone Port Adelaide over St Kilda. Saturday afternoon, I've gone the Crows over North Melbourne. Saturday evening, I've gone Carlton over Geelong. Saturday night, I've gone Fremantle over the Western Bulldogs. Sunday early game, I've gone the Gold Coast Suns over West Coast. And on Sunday afternoon, I've gone the Swans over Hawthorn. So those are my tips for this week. What have you gone with?
So, Anzac Eve, I've went Melbourne over Richmond. Anzac Day, I've went Collingwood over Essendon. Anzac night, Brisbane over the Giants. Friday, I have went Port Adelaide over St Kilda. Saturday afternoon, I've went the Crows over North Melbourne. Saturday twilight, I've went Geelong over Carlton. Saturday night, I have went the Bulldogs over Fremantle. Sunday, I've went the Suns over West Coast. Then I went the Swans over the Hawks.
Okay, so we've actually got a couple different this week. We've tipped a lot the same the last few weeks. We've got a couple different. So we'll start off with Anzac Day, because I think that's a fair thing to say. Collingwood versus Essendon.
Yep.
I think Collingwood are back in their form. I think that's just a fair thing to say now. They look like they're back.
Oh, yeah.
And they smashed Port Adelaide after the first quarter
and a half, yeah.
I think they're right back. Nick Dacos actually got some meaningful touches this week. So if he can get the ball, this is what Harry Sheasel needs to do with the North Melbourne. Needs to get some meaningful touches. It's all well and good to have 35 touches in the back pocket, getting a little kick there, and going playing off half back. But he's having meaningful touches in that game against Port Adelaide and played really well. Jordan De Goey was massive through the middle of the ground.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I think Caldwell will go to him in
Yeah.
the midfield. I think that's going to be their best option, but I think De Goey's going to be able to beat him around the ground.
Yeah.
And I also think that it'll be interesting to see if Draper does play, because he didn't play that well against Adelaide, and they may have to go with Goldstein.
And with Peter Wright coming back, obviously.
Yeah, I don't think they play Goldstein, Draper, and Wright in that team. I think that's pretty... And Harry Jones looks like he's done pretty well the last few weeks for the Bombers up there, which I think is good. I just think Collingwood, they're good enough to hold up against the Essendon forward line, and I think Collingwood smalls up forward will do enough. I think Schultz is playing himself into a bit of form. Bobby Hill's going to be dangerous
He was
as
back.
always.
He was definitely back in form after that game against Port Adelaide.
I think it'll be a close game. I think Anzac Day, it's always good. Great game. It was a big build-up. I feel like Essendon, they need to lock down De Goey, and they need to stop the small forwards of Collingwood. I feel like that's the two big ones. And whoever's playing on Darcy Moore just has to be dangerous. If they let Darcy Moore just float around all day and just take easy intercept marks, they'll just rebound off the half-back line all day and just go down the other end and kick goals.
I'm very much going Collingwood with the more experienced midfield, I think.
Yeah.
And they'll get their fourth win of the season.
Yep. All right, next one, we've got a pretty big game, Giants versus the Lions. We've both gone the Lions, surprisingly. Is this because of Toby Green being out and Jesse Hogan at the moment?
Them two, and the fact that Sam Taylor's not there.
They're not expecting him to be back.
I don't think... For me to tip the Giants, all three of them have to be in that game.
I tend to agree. If all three aren't there, then I can't pick them. And
The big thing also for Brisbane is that Oscar McInerney's not going to be there with the concussion he got against Geelong.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
Is going to be because Darcy Fort will come in.
Yeah, I think that will be okay. Obviously, it didn't help them against Geelong. They didn't have another ruckman option. And the game was a fucking slugfest because it was in the wet. I don't think that's Brisbane's game.
No.
I do think the Lions will be able to win this game. I think that they had a disappointing performance against Geelong, especially in that second half. I feel like they'll fire back. And GWS just have so many big outs. And look, if all three of those are in, Sam Taylor, Toby Green, and Jesse Hogan, I'll think about changing the tip. But even Cornelio's out as well, and that's a big one for their midfield.
Well, you also look at it as like Brisbane have lost all the games at home. The two they've won have actually been away. So
you're right. They've turned it around.
Well, yes, one of them was against North Melbourne. All right, and
one was against North Melbourne. The other one was against Melbourne. So one good win so far this year.
One good win, one actual win.
Yeah. To be fair, Brisbane, maybe we're thinking too much of them as well because they've only won one decent game this year.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the case. I still think Brisbane will win. Next, let's talk about probably the biggest game of the round, I would say. Geelong versus Carlton at the MCG. What a big game this is going to be.
Terrible time slot.
terrible time slot. Well, I'll be able to watch it anyway. Probably This will probably be the game I stream as well on Saturday. We'll see how we go. But this is going to be a big game. Geelong versus Carlton. I'm going to go Carlton because I just think now that Tom Stewart is out, that's going to be enough that Carlton can be dangerous up forward. Carlton just can't bomb it though. As long as they can hit up their targets, they don't just start bombing it. Because even though Tom Stewart won't be there, Geelong still have a very capable defence for intercepting. Now, obviously, against Brisbane last week, the intercept game wasn't there because of how crap the weather was. But I still think that the likes of Jack Henry, Sam De Koning, all that, they can still play their game. They have to lower their eyes a bit, get their small forwards involved. But Harry Mackay, Tom De Koning was good up forward when he was there. I think they're going to be too dangerous for Geelong, and I think that Carlton will win this game.
Yeah, I think there's just too many injuries. But yes, they played the Giants, but I thought the Giants start of the season, they played a lot of easier teams, and Carlton was their first real big test, and they lost it. But Carlton, they're coming up against an experienced Geelong side who did beat Brisbane on the road at the Gabba. So I think the Geelong should be able to win that game. And getting Tyson Stengel back into form after
pretty poor last year.
Last year, yeah. So I think the small forwards should be able to dominate the small defenders of Carlton.
Yeah. Okay. Also, by the way, I helped him with his homework once. I went to school with him and I did his class for quite a while. So look, I don't want to say that I helped him win the premiership in 2022 in his All-Australian form, but yeah, I at least had a hand in it. Last game I want to talk about in the tips this week is Saturday night, Fremantle versus the Bulldogs. What a big game this is because both these teams need to win. Bulldogs on the fact that they, last week was a response game. They always
going to. And I don't. To be honest, I don't know why people would tip St Kilda last week.
Yeah,
they were always going to.
Bulldogs play like a premiership team when they need to respond.
Yeah.
Fremantle were dreadful against West Coast.
Yeah.
They didn't kick a goal till about midway through the second term and were dreadful throughout the rest of the game. I picked Fremantle because this is at Optus, 1. 2, the Bulldogs already had the response game. There's no Chubb anymore. They don't need to do it. And Fremantle need to respond. That was a terrible performance against West Coast in the derby. They should have been up for it. They weren't. At the start of the year, they won 3 straight games and they lost to Carlton just. People were thinking this team's going to be something. They lost to Port Adelaide just. People wavered a little bit. And now they just lost to West Coast, and now no one's thinking about them anymore. They need to get themselves back on track. They need to win this game, and I think that they will. Why have you gone the Bulldogs?
Because the Freo can't score. And they're coming up against a pretty good duo in Liam Jones and Buku Kamas. I think that they'll hold up. And the fact is that Norton kicked 6 goals. Cody Waitman kicked 3 early against the Saints. Jamara didn't play that game. And I think they'll have the firepower. They just have to break even with the Dockers' defence. And the defence of the Bulldogs will hold up. Because they won't kick a winning score.
Alright guys, that's basically our tips for this week. Make sure to let us know down below who you will be picking this week. If you think your team will win. If you think our tips are wrong. Or right. Usually no one ever says they're right.
I got the most. I did pretty well. I got 5 last week.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, let's take a look at the league. So, of course, we have mentioned it many times. We have a league for our Boundary Riders channel. We obviously started at the start of the year, so if we have some new viewers, we'll be doing it next year as well, I guess. But we'll take a look at the ladder. So, right now, Brandon S. still has the lead with 2 points on 39 tips. He's doing really well. It's going to be hard to catch him. You right now are in 8th, and you got the equal most this week with the 5 tips. I'm in front of you. I'm on 35 right now in 6th spot. Oh, look at me go.
So how far were you behind the top guy?
So I'm 4 tips behind on the top one. Brooke K also got 5 this week. So she was in 10th spot. So she got some tips back, which is good to see for her. Right now, Daniel C is on bottom with a 32. Need to pick it up there, Daniel. You're only 7 tips behind top, so, big week from you, big loss from Brendan, and maybe a back winner. It's not that bad. Like, it's only 7 tips. Like, it's not the worst gap.
And this is the like we just went with our tips. There's a lot of 50-50 games, really. If you look at it,
this is a week that you can get yourself back into it.
Or you can lose it all.
Yeah, or you can lose it all. Exactly. So, half glass full, half glass empty. Let's see how we go. So I'm currently 4 tips away from top, and Brandon S leads by 2 points on 2nd spot. So he has a good lead at the moment.